Hello, everyone. This is Dr. J, host of the Sexuality Space. Welcome. My silent co host and virtual assistant, and all around best colleague in the world, Misha Elliott, is behind the scenes organizing our business for today. For those listening to the replay, the Sexuality Space is live every Wednesday noon on right here on Twitter. And I am getting a message. So just a second and let me get to where I need to be. Misha, can you send a link to Anne? She doesn't seem to be able to get into the space, even though if you could just send her a note to tell her to look on the timeline. Let me see if I can do that message real quick. Okay, so where was I? I was talking about the best colleague in the world, Misha Elliott. That's what I was talking about. Um, So here on Twitter, I have created a sex positive community that is live every Wednesday, noon Eastern time, where we meet and talk about different sex topics. We meet with CEOs of sex companies, sex educators, researchers, and writers. And I want you to see me doing my work in the daylight as I integrate sexuality into everyday life. Hello, everyone. And I just sent you a speaker request. There you go. And if you would just mute, and the little microphone icon does that, and we'll just be all together here. Hello to everyone listening. As a reminder, this is a recorded space which will live on the Twitter timeline and is repurposed on my website, FlowGen playlist, and on YouTube. Please note that the bottom right-hand corner is equipped with its own chat feature. You can ask questions as the space goes on or DM Misha or me for questions. Last week, we hosted the book launch for Rachel Kramer Bussell in her book, How to Write Erotica. And it was a riveting event, and we had such a great time. And this week, we're going to meet and speak with Anne Sololia, and our topic is sexual empowerment. Hello, Anne. Is this your first time in a Twitter space?
Hello, Donna, and it's lovely to be here, and thank you for having me. It's not the first time on a Twitter space, but related to this topic, it is, yes. So it's
Oh, I'm delighted to have you here. You and I connected specifically through your timeline, and I was reading the information there and liked what you were bringing forward. And I asked you, did you want to have a conversation about this topic? And you graciously said yes, you would. And that's how we ended up here today. But it's interesting, and I always ask this to anybody who ends up doing some type of sexuality efforts in their world. How did you end up with this as a topic of interest to you to check out?
um, when you invited me, I really couldn't resist, and I definitely couldn't say no. Because first of all, I'm super happy that you created this open positivity space for discussing about sexuality. Because actually, what you do, I think this is the dot that we connect, is taking sexuality as something natural, as something that makes us more human, not less human, and something that is directly related to the level of our happiness. What brought me to this topic was actually doing it wrong in my life. Because this is something, I became a sexual empowerment coach. Maybe I should start, with this small little introduction. And what I do is I support my clients in achieving clarity, who they are as sexual beings. And when they are able to achieve, this clarity, then we try to figure out how to fit that into their lives. Because, what society puts you in, um, this is the ideal and the narrative on achieving some iconicity when it comes to different spheres of your life. Yeah, you should hit the gym, you should exercise a lot, you should upgrade your fashion style, you should, chase the financial success, of course, some career goals. And, just don't get me wrong, I'm not saying that. Anything of these is not important in life. I love physical activity myself, and each and every type of it gives me something else. But what we tend to forget is that, you cannot replace, while chasing all those things, you cannot replace your sexuality by anything else. It's not possible when you focus on your career path. I've been there, I've done it myself. It's even, not possible to replace it with being a mother, with being a sister, with being focused on your family life. It's not possible, to forget about it. Um, when you chase all the other spheres that are blessed or seen as more important, we are we live in these times when sexuality is described as the opposite to intellectual, as the opposite to spiritual, as something that should be is superficial, in the current dating culture, or as something that is shameful and should be forgotten. And I'm completely, totally against all these narratives because to me it's directly related to our happiness.
Well, you are speaking my language. And I was thinking that one of the things that I do in working with people is to use the term balance, and that we have all of these great things in our life that provide us so many different things in the way that you were talking about the spheres. And yet we haven't given people any space or tools to really think about how that sexuality can take an equal place at the table of our lives. And so I like to talk with people about in sexuality, the physical components and the emotional components and the mental components and the spiritual components, and have them work to figure out which area can empower them, what area might they already have some empowerment in, and then start taking a look at the details of their life for, what they're interested in. So I like the perspective that you're coming from. And so, how did you set up your coaching work?
It's let's say I'm a rookie. So I started to meet my clients in person in Paris and in Oslo, where I'm located at the moment. Um, But recently, friends and also, some of people I work with, they pointed out that maybe I should go online and share some thoughts. Uh, of course, writing online is a completely different situation than working with people in person. And I have to admit that direct interaction with people, sharing their stories, you know, um, being a witness actually um, to the situation where when they are able to embrace their sexuality, that just makes me respectful, humble, supportive, and happy because I have witnessed it many times. And what I'm mostly focused on is overcoming social stigmas because they are super powerful. When they even most frequently, you know, determine the fact that we allow or don't allow ourselves to ask ourselves some questions. Um, I try to um, help people achieving, mindful sexual exploration and building self-confidence and self-acceptance. So these are my main rules when it comes to working with people. And
Uh, Go ahead.
yeah, so and of course, to me, the main, absolutely, undisputable number one rule is like having no moral judgment, because this is something I totally, completely don't feel entitled to. Of course, when we talk about anything that is within safe, sane, and consensual.
Yes. And I was thinking that when I first started this, and we'll be celebrating a 3-year anniversary on May the 3rd this year. It's hard to believe I've been in this space for 3 years having
Wow,
different
congrats.
conversations. Thanks. And what you're saying there about the no judgment, we never help people set up a place for permission just to do that exploration or have words with another person and how do you see things and how can we be our authentic and genuine selves if we're not in that place of non-judgment, and how important that is to open your arms, creating that space for someone to be there to do that exploration in a safe way that allows them to touch inside themselves, to feel good about who they are. And I loved how you described that as a witness of their life, because that is something that I feel very strongly about. And it's that particular bond, too, that allows people to tag into that place in themselves that I was accepted, that I was seen, that I was heard, that I was felt. And when those things happen, that does create that wonderful self-confidence. And, I can take the next step forward with a larger self in that direction. I loved how you expressed that.
You are speaking absolutely, my language, because I actually, feel honored when somebody decides to trust me and, discuss things that are important and crucial in their life. And I know from my own experience, that um, because I've been the myself, that um, you can choose. I mean, like, I don't want to um, overuse, the word growth, because it's nowadays it has different connotations and narratives. But let's say that connecting with your sexual self can be prompted frequently by sheer curiosity or suffering. And for many people, it's the latter. So to me, like my main job and my main goal is to tell people that it's okay to ask questions, and you don't have to be forced to ask them when you get divorced. When you feel that you and your partner are not a good match, when you suffer because you feel like you are in a relationship, when you can't express yourself fully, you can ask questions and it's okay. It's not like you shouldn't be asking questions because you should also know everything. No, that's completely, totally not the case. And asking all the questions is perfectly okay. I can still remember, this is maybe something very personal, but I can still remember, how beautiful that can be in life when you take this first step to ask the question, and how also difficult, that is. Because I will never forget. I mentioned to you personally earlier, Donna, that I grew up in a very um, in an ultra conservative family. So there was no sexual education. Actually, that was something that was forbidden and definitely not wanted. And I just accepted it as it was. And even though I was able to embrace my sexual self many years later on my own, I remember the moment when I was taking care of my daughter. She was a little baby. I was totally exhausted, and my mother, who got stuck for many, many years, came and visited me. And that was many years after the divorce with my father. And she actually, in her 50s, um, for the first time in her life, we should say it, because she was forced, to get married by her parents. So she started to discover life and also her sexual self. And I was, in a messy state with a little baby, completely not thinking about anything else at that time. And it was almost midnight when my own mom came to me, and she knew I was more experienced, let's put it this way. And I could see how difficult it was for her after all these years. And she just started dating with somebody she really liked. But she was so confused, and she saw so many blocks and barriers in herself, and all the situations she couldn't understand. And she just said, not even looking into my eyes, you know, could you please tell me how to give a blowjob?
Yeah.
And because she wanted to be happy, and she wanted her man to be happy, and she didn't know where to start with. So that was a very beautiful example for me, that you can always be at the starting line. It's not like you are done with anything in your life because you did or you didn't experiment in your 20s, you know.
Yeah, and you're also bringing up the idea that I like to talk about. The father of sex education in the United States, his name was Saul Gordon. And he created a template known as the teachable moment. And I think that your example is this wonderful openness between a mother and daughter, born out of that curiosity and suffering that you were speaking of, which I love because the duality is I see curiosity as a wonderfully positive direction, and I see suffering as that negative part. And yet both of them have the energy to move us forward. I don't use the word growth, I use the word journey and evolution. And these wonderful teachable moments, like we're having in this space where you and I are having this conversation, could be a moment where someone listening is given that permission to say, I can ask myself today. And when people say, the sex education should have happened, X amount of time in the past, I go, well, maybe you weren't ready for it at that time. Maybe you needed to hear this right now, and it's going to help you catapult to the place that you need to be in and with and for yourself. So I love that you
Absolutely.
brought that up. And I
Absolutely.
also want to tell you, Misha, if you could put up in the nest a link about Moan. And I was thinking as you were talking, one lovely space that you would probably enjoy is there's an app called the Moan app. It is specifically sexuality based. Are you familiar with it?
Completely not. So I'd be grateful, for some insight.
Well, the CEO and founder is a friend, and I have been working behind the scenes while they created the beta testing and that sort of thing. And the Moan app, you can get iOS or Android. And Cale Jones is the founder, and he wanted to create an audio space that was for every area of sexual exploration. So you could have conversations, you could have one-on-one discussions, you can have a small group and have discussions. Maybe you lead a guided tour in a masturbation type of thing. It's wide open in
Wow.
terms of what it's doing, and it's not, it is built on the premise of sex positivity with the highest level of boundaries and consent, and that we're being respectful in the conversations that we have with one another. And they have a great system built in for are people misbehaving, and if they are, how they handle that. And it's been a very open, and for someone who wants to have those conversations, make those connections, I think you would find that to be a lovely space to be in for you.
Sounds really wonderful. Yes, because, I think this is what we, should definitely underline now that each and every of us, um, faces anxiety, when it comes to discovering, and as you said, I think that's a perfect word, on our journey, because sexuality is about journey. It's not about iconicity. It's not about uh, getting to one point and not moving. It's about redefining. It's about rediscovering. And of course, it's like we all face anxiety. It's well scientifically proven that humans tend to choose the comfort of what is familiar, even if it's proven being uncomfortable in the long run. We all know it well. But it's your choice. Your choice is to develop this connection with yourself, or your choice is to avoid it. And to me, all in all, is about asking yourself one simple question. I don't want to go melodramatic now, but this is how it is. You know, when you feel this connection, when you examine, understand, and own your sexual wiring, you are a better parent, you're a better neighbor, your creativity can boost, your productivity can boost, your patience is different. Your approach to life as a human being is different. So to me, this is all in all, hitting this point when you are able to ask yourself one simple question: are you ready to die without this feeling, without sexual fulfillment? You know, are you not willing to try to get this connection with yourself and discover who you are as a human being? Because this is part of our humanity. This is part of who we are.
I love that you're saying that. And whether you've read this book or not, I don't know if you're connected with Dr. David Snarch, who wrote the book, The Sexual Crucible, Passionate Marriage, Love and Desire. All of his work is tied around the end product is, if you think about it in terms of you aren't here anymore, where's the regret? Are you going to have lived the fullest life that you can? Providing sexuality that equal place, because I love how you said it. Misha and I have been together this past weekend. She lives in the upper part of the United States and I live in the lower part of the United States. And we had a book festival this weekend and we got to be together. And as she was getting introduced to different people, she would talk about her spicy writing or different things. And they
Mm.
automatically said, oh, is she connected to Dr. J? And it was funny because the energy that we carry, what attracts people to us, whether they know that we are open and we work with discovery and that we think that imagination and creativity all come together to, as you said, and to highlight and embrace all of the areas of our life. And that is a beautiful sentiment that you just shared.
Uh, because this is what I truly believe, and I think this is actually why we connected as well, because I saw it immediately, going through your timeline, that these are the values that you promote, and they are super close to my heart. Uh, you know, it's like I think that each and every of us, goes through this stage that I might be rejected, I might not be accepted, but all in all, worst case scenario is that you may come to the conclusion that, for example, at this stage of your life, you and your partner or partners are not the best match. But this is the inherent risk, um, of the journey of getting to know um, ourselves better, and being able to accept some loss sometimes. This is what moves you from confusion to clarity, what moves you from suppressed to expressed, from shame to self honoring, from sadness to joy, to relief, to self love. And I think, that being authentic, being honest to yourself, um, this is the life, that is worth everything. I keep saying this because, it's like I got divorced. And people, when they hear about it, it's like, oh, I'm so sorry to hear about your divorce. And I say, thank you for you being so kind, but I'm happy I got divorced. Staying in a shitty marriage was, to me, being not honest and not true to myself and not experiencing what I could have, because I was unable to express my wants and my needs. So it's like all of our relationships, they teach us, if we want to learn, how to get closer to our sexual self.
Yeah. I was thinking, I was making a list as you and I were talking about this to be the topic. And I think I have a time that I run a show on the Moan app too, which is tomorrow at 4 p.m. And I'm going to continue this conversation of sexual empowerment there. And so I was making a list of aspects of sexual empowerment. So I want to share my list with you, and you tell me how you think those resonate with the
Where
way
can I
you
see it?
put. Oh, my list is on my desk. I don't think you can
Ah,
see it
okay.
right this second, but I'll make a blog post and then you can see it.
Oh, that is
This is
great. Sorry,
you,
I'm not a tech savvy person, so I I
that's okay. I absolutely get it, but I'll get you the information one way or the other. I know how to
great,
find you.
great.
So I listed body positivity, knowledge and education, self exploration, communication,
Hmm.
boundaries, pleasure, and consent. So those were the top 7 items that I came up with for thinking about sexual empowerment.
These are
I'm going
super powerful topics that definitely should be examined for sure.
It's interesting. I thought about the body positivity, and I'm finishing up a class with the purple sex reflection deck cards that I made. And
Hmm.
body image and how we feel about our body is one of those things. And, I think we get so many messages about our own body and how it relates to our sexual desires and pleasures that it's almost hard for people to understand this is the vessel that holds your sexuality. And if you can make friends with it and if you can accept it for what it is, then that's going to be one of the gateways for the wonderful things that can occur for you. Do you agree with
Absolutely,
that?
absolutely. I couldn't agree more. I think that you are making crucial point here. And there is a great book that I always recommend by Dr. Clarissa Pinkola Estes, Women Who Run with the Wolves. Um,
Uh-huh.
and actually, based on the title, some of our listeners might think that it's, a good position only for female part of the audience, but that's not totally true. Dr. Estes takes an in-depth look at some universal wisdom passed down in fairy tales, in legends, in myths from different cultures, showing actually um, also what you are saying right now, that enjoying your body and understanding that this is the best vehicle we need to become friends with, and that influences how we carry ourselves, not only when we are naked, but how we carry ourselves in life with other people, and what kind of understanding of human body was in different cultures centuries ago, completely different from the iconicity and narrative that is very present around us nowadays, and that makes it very difficult to achieve. But I think that without this uh, point that you are making now, we are unable to embrace our sexuality, because it starts and it ends there. All in all, this is the relationship we have with our body is frequently the biggest obstacle for ourselves to truly enjoy our sexuality.
And when people think about their body, I guess too, being someone who is an observer and, in that research mode, I observe to watch
Hmm.
movement and the way people are. And I find that people do not realize that the way they actually carry their frame whether their shoulders are hunched over, whether their head is down. All of these are messages about that vessel. And if you can help people to change some of the structure with which they carry themselves, that it's going to open up and access like a key in a lock situation to begin a process. So I think about these seven items that I listed. For every individual person, it's going to be different for where they decide to tackle, or where that curiosity comes from, or which area is providing more suffering than another. And
Mm-hmm.
so it isn't about us picking and choosing for the person. It's about, where do they want to start? Which one of these things means something in a way that they're ready to move in that direction?
Yes, I absolutely, agree that this is something, you need to be ready to um, make happen for yourself, because you are the only one um, that can take steps, like, self examination, self love, self actualization. And there is no way, I mean, like, you can't do it wrong for yourself. Whatever you do for yourself that leads you in this positive direction is a good step.
And it's uniquely you, and
Yes.
no one else could make
No.
that step. And I think that's what you've been, well, both of us have been addressing, is that the journey is the individual journey, and the journey is what is only yours.
Yes, and I think you are here underlying a super important point, Of course, other people that we meet on our way, they they can give us the gift of getting know ourselves a little bit better, sometimes not. But first and foremost, we are the ones that are responsible for this journey. Absolutely. It's not like, you can sit down and wait for somebody to come and save you, or, solve it for you. This is how it will never work. And this is the responsibility we need to take for ourselves. And yeah, because as exactly you underlined it brilliantly, uh, that is our own individual journey based on our own experiences and feelings, and it can't be done by anybody else.
When I looked at the list of body positivity, knowledge and education, self exploration, communication, boundaries, pleasure, and consent, sometimes I think, when I look at the concept of pleasure, that's one that stumps people, because that's where the "I don't deserve this" message comes in. And
Hmm.
sometimes, when I was working doing sex therapy training, it was always interesting when they would say, how much time do you devote to? And you make a
Hmm.
list, and somebody can say, well, I put all of 3 minutes
Wow.
into my time for my sexuality, or I can have an orgasm in 30 seconds, or whatever. And they said, is that how much worth you have to yourself? And so they would actually look at it from a time factor and say, how can you help in time to allow yourself more in the pleasure world?
Yes, to say it out loud to yourself that this is something you deserve. This is something you
Yeah.
should find time for. And it's nothing wrong. It's not like you have to perform all the time, or you have to avoid asking those questions. No, this is something you have complete right to. And this is also frequently, the question. But I think people of doesn't matter what kind of sexual wiring they have. These are the universal questions and doubts that many people in different sexual settings, in different kind of relationships, ask themselves, and these are the doubts that they share.
Excellent. I see that Mistress K has come into the space. Mistress K, if you are in a place where you can chat, I have a question that I wanted to ask you because Anne and I were having a conversation about locations where she could have more conversations, and I was suggesting the Moan app, and Mistress K has been on the Moan app since it started, and I thought you might find it interesting to hear what she has to say, and she accepted the mic in that direction. So, Mistress K, hello, this is Anne. How are you today?
I'm good. I'm good. I'm taking a break and having myself some lunch, and then I got to get back to the grind.
Well, can you tell Anne a little bit about your experience as a speaker and room host for the Moan app?
Yeah, I've been on the Moan app since it launched in beta form for iPhone only in 2021 in November. I actually ended up joining like a week after the thing launched. And the whole point of the Moan app is to host all the conversations centered around sex. So they really have built a platform based on three pillars: education, exploration, and engagement. And they want to provide a safe space for people to have difficult conversations, to share their sexy stories and sexual exploration, and to also just get to know other people in a sex positive way, to have conversations that, frankly, we don't get the chance to have growing up with, especially in the US, with the crappy sex education that we have. It's hard to find that. And so this has been such a great platform. And back when it first launched, I spent the first, few weeks just listening, um, and trying to check it out, seeing what it was all about. And that's when they were really trying to get a lot of people to start rooms. They didn't have a whole lot of verified users with content creation and stuff like that. And if you started a room, you just started it live, and whoever showed up came in. You couldn't schedule a room in advance. You couldn't kind of like hype up anything. It was literally just like, it was an audio version of the old like GeoCities chat rooms. You just kind of show up, and whoever's there is who you talk with. And I remember the first room that I hosted that I decided to talk about was a room all about masturbation as self care. And the reason that I started that room is um, I'd been having a crappy morning, and I went upstairs and masturbated, and I felt so good, and it kind of turned my whole, I was sitting there thinking, like, this is a form of self-care for me. I can change my mood through going and having a pleasurable sexual experience. I wonder if anybody else treats masturbation this way. So let's talk about
And I
it.
love it.
And so I ended
That
up,
is great.
yeah, I ended up talking about it, and people got onto the room and opened up about their experiences, talked about, overcoming shame around masturbation. I talked about my self overcoming shame about masturbation, and how I've now kind of over the course of this, my sexual exploration and journey as a human on this planet, just how I've come to realize what a valuable tool it can be. And then to have other people kind of come on and say, that's the first time I've ever heard anybody say that. It was very powerful. And that's the kind of conversations that the Moan app want to kind of create, is for people to be able to find some acceptance. I've also created rooms where I've sucked down heliums and said dirty phrases and done dirty talk while sucking helium balloons. So I also do completely silly, ridiculous rooms. But then I'm also doing, I talk about sex toys. I talk about, I host a monthly moan mixer. So people who are new to the app can kind of come on and ask questions about the app and how to use it and get to know other new people. So I'll do a short recorded portion of it where I talk about like practicalities of using the app, community standards, things like that. And then we turn off the recorded portion and I do a mixer. So we'll do just a simple, silly game that anybody can play, and it's like a question answer game, but it's always something ridiculous and fun. And I try to make it very accessible to everybody, so that even if you do have kind of social anxiety, you can talk about it in the chat and play along that way, and just make it very open. And for people who have a whole breadth of sexual experience from none to a lot, you can always answer the questions that I put out there. So I try to make it very approachable. And that's if you want to get on the app and join, I'm going to be doing the next one on March the 1st. So I try to do it at the beginning, one of the first Wednesdays of every month. Just because we have so many people joining the app. So yeah, there are other people that are professional sex workers. They will get on and talk about their experience, and that has been, informative for people who they've only been given one narrative about people who do sex work, and they're able to go and ask questions. How do you feel about what you're doing? What drove you to, what made you choose this choice? What do you like about what you do? What would you change? How would you make it safer? What are some things that impact you? We've got people who are coming on and they were talking about, they expressing their sexuality and they want to do anal play and pegging, but they're uncertain of what that means about your sexuality. I'm like, it means that you have nerve endings in your butt and you want to explore that. That's what it means,
And I think you have given a wonderful, inclusive examples there of what we've been talking about for sexual empowerment, and that Kale has created this wonderful location that's sex specific and any topic goes, and people are interested and they can, come in and see what you're doing and all of that. So, Anne, did that get you some information?
That actually sounds great, and I will definitely check it out. And really thank you for that. Was like a full guide through the app. And but first and foremost, I love this positivity approach and normalization approach that we are discussing today. And so this app looks like something where you can really go into some deep topics that are not always allowed, let's say, on some other apps. And this is actually crucial information for me, because I get different signals all the time from people that are that find my work important, but they are too afraid to react on Twitter, for example, because it is related to their professional account. It leaves of course, the digital print, and they are sometimes even too afraid to follow. They are afraid to ask questions, and I think that such a dedicated space is something really wonderful for people, exactly, to feel free to ask questions.
And it goes back to your original comment. things move us forward out of curiosity or things move us forward out of suffering. So,
Exactly.
one of the two will get us some
Yeah, so what
information
do we
so that we can
choose?
figure out.
Yeah, what do we choose
Yes,
then?
yes, yes, yes. So, I was thinking that I'm going to be cutting this just 5 minutes early today because for a lot of different things are going on at my house at the moment. Um, but Anne, I knew when I saw your information on your timeline that you and I would have to connect. And it has been every single thing that I thought it would be.
And thank you for having me. It's been a pleasure. It's been an honor, and I'm learning, so much from you. And I was able to discover all the wonderful people around the sexuality space. That's a wonderful initiative. That's a wonderful idea. Bringing sexuality discussions to the daylight. I love this phrase of yours. I think
Oh, thank you.
that really hits the point. That really hits the point to normalize it.
I love that. I love that. Mistress K, you have a comment you want to sum up?
I'm happy, with us being here today, and I just hope that this kind of discussions and sexuality space and anything that is able to make people start thinking, asking questions, relating their sexuality directly to their level of happiness. This is what has been said, that yeah, this is wellness. This is how I can change my mood. I'm also, in charge of different things in my life. So sexuality is about happiness, and if that can help one person start thinking about it, I would be more than happy.
That's excellent. Excellent. Misha, thank you so much for putting all of the wonderful tweets up in the top there. And Anne, she's got the Mistress K's Moan app information over our head. I have my sign up for my
Perfect.
newsletter, the YouTube channel. Um, and I want to, Mistress K, did you have anything you wanted to add here at the end before I do my sum up?
I just wanted to mention something that talking about all conversations surrounding about sexuality. I mean, one of the things that I am going to be doing in March for Women's History Month is to talk about sluts who changed the world. And basically, I'm using that as,
I love the
kind of
topic
the
already.
right, but it's how women's sexuality or the shaming of it has impacted and had ripple effects. And I'm trying to pick, 4 different women to discuss how their specific sexuality and how they were able to either use it or it was used against them, the ripple effects that caused, and how really much of our world is shaped as a result of women's sexuality.
Oh, wow, you
Wow.
are hitting the nail on the head, Mistress K. That is a wonderful, wonderful topic. We this weekend got to hear Kate Quinn talk about badass women in historical fiction. So I think you're going to be finding the badass sexuality women of historical significance there that really have shaped how things are. But I want to be signing off here. I will be taking the next 2 months off in the sexuality space. The first month is because I will be on a book deadline, And I have to get this book deadline. There is no wiggle room because I will be leaving for Europe. So I will be gone for 2 months, and I will be back for our big third birthday party on May the 3rd. So I can't even believe it'll be 3 years in that direction. I want to thank Anne. I want to thank Mistress Kay. I want to thank Misha and all of you who came in to listen today. I will be on the Moan app tomorrow at 4 p.m. Eastern on Purple Sex and Erotic Whims, and continuing this conversation in sexual empowerment. And I hope that everyone has a delightful day. And Anne, I look forward to all our conversations back and forth into the future.
For sure. Count me in, Donna.
Okay, everyone have a great day. We'll see you next time.